Time is moving quickly, I think. People who aren't suspicious are wearing big jackets, lips are chapping. Stand-up comedians who made great jokes about their girlfriend's behaviour during the summer have since updated their material with no mention of her. Bublé is back on in Tesco. You are reminded that time is indeed moving quickly and things are changing. The seasons have changed. Autumn to winter, or if you're me, McRib to advent calendar. I've been working really hard recently. Really hard. Not exactly rock bottom territory, like when you have to use the train toilets for more than a wee, but not far off. So hard that it becomes difficult to get time to read, where life is enjoyed as the moments of blissful abandon between filling the washing machine and remembering to empty it. Could be 5 minutes, could be 5 days. Anyway, I'm hungry, so this one's a cooking video. Hope you like Italian. This video will consist of me chopping things poorly and then stirring things with purpose. I have dyspraxia, which for the uninformed means that my hands are in a constant state of rebellion against my mind. Despite this, I love working with my hands. As a young professional that feels no sense of identity to either of those words, I relish the opportunity to get my hands dirty. I've been rereading Tyranny of Faith from Richard SWAN as I'm trying to learn what it is that makes a sequel my favourite in a trilogy. I met Richard at Worldcon at an event called A Stroll with the Stars, which was a curious name for a walk with writers to a local park in Glasgow known for dog walking, jogging and dogging. Much like my local park, Swan's book has hidden depths. I love it. The book, I mean. The gang from Book 1 have arrived back in the Empire's capital, Silva. If there's one thing I really love about Richard's world and writing, it's the description. The descriptions are vast, but with nuance. Legions on the march, and how you can tell from the road how large those legions are, or were. New character introductions like the princes, the prefect of the magistratum, and of course the Emperor, who is everything one might expect, but with a deal more that you didn't. Speaking of, there is a beautiful conceit in some books where a character is bigged up for ages and then when we meet them it can sort of fall apart. But in some cases, like meeting Stannis Baratheon in A Clash of Kings, they become instant favourites for the fanbase. The Emperor Kirsik is one such. I loved how the story returned to the capital. In Book 1 this felt like Rome, the way it was spoken about, but in all honesty, actually being there in Book 2, it felt more like Coruscant. And lovers of the prequels, myself, may remember a particular order, 66. I'm afraid at this stage of the book, perhaps around chapter 5, I was inconsolably locked in. That was a Star Wars reference, but this is a book for Rome Bros too, as we see a nod to the Catilinarian conspiracy led by Lucius Catiline and uncovered by the legal mind and everyone's favourite bore, Marcus Tullius Cicero. It's clear to me that Swan is a fan of Robert Harris. I could be wrong. I loved getting a bit more from the main characters. There was a real sense of dread.
What we really need to do is create a powerful sense of dread. See, the longer the note, the more dread.
Helena is beginning to grow into her own, but in doing so becoming more like her master. In one passage even cutting someone off with a curt, "Let's get on with it," which was very Vaughnville coded. Reading on how the Empire's legions are too far off, concentrated in sections too far flung, whilst the institutions of Empire decay, it felt like I was playing Total War and screwing everything up, which is what I tend to do when I play Total War. The religious order really get their moment in the spotlight too in this book, locking horns with the Empire in a classic Thucydides trap. It was really interesting reading Von Volt's musings on the Templar leader's use of arcane magic in Book 1. I recall reading that scene and being really confused, perhaps even felt a bit anticlimactic, the big baddie simply crumbling after using his powers. It was made very clear here that he was simply someone trying their hand at magic whilst still an amateur, and learning from a learned justice that such powers in an amateur means he is a true threat, even an equal. That was frightening build up. So Radomir too gets some time spent on him. I'd been worried that this would be a case of a main character sponging up side characters for their party along the way without much circumspection, but the deep dive into his dependency on drink was handled prudently. I also loved how foreign technology was being handled amongst the provinces. Black powder reminded me of Gurkish fire introduced in Abercrombie's Before They're Hanged, another favourite sequel of mine. I don't want to spoil anything as you might not have read this book yet, so a few quick notes on some other bits I ate up. The Emperor's stratagem room in chapter 5. I can't stop talking about how cool that is. I'm sure my girlfriend wanted to dump me the 10th time I brought it up. It is a fantasy lover's absolute wet dream. The execution at the end of chapter 6 was sublime grimdark. If anyone has any ideas of grimdark being on the way out, I gently nudge you towards this scene, all-timer. Entering the church containing the eternal flame was an incredible set piece. I really want to study this chapter. The entry to the church itself was a very effective scene of violence and dialogue. Chapter 13 also had great descriptions of bustling markets. There is more, but I'm done with this video. If you had some favourite scenes I haven't mentioned, then drop them in the comments. I need to speak to some people about this book. Please save my partner from my prattle. See ya!